I'm in the Butler cabin last year, and I open the door, and there is large as life is Jelly Roll. I didn't expect to see Jelly Roll standing here in the Butler cabin. And I sent out this picture of me, Jim Nantz, and Jelly Roll in the Butler cabin. And the text just said, "Hello, friends." and people are like, didn't have that, on the bingo card.
Yeah. Welcome back to the 11th inning with Kolko and Zim. Dan Kolko, Ryan Zimmerman, back at Nationals Park recording episode 3. Zim, how we doing?
I'm great. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. We're settling into the flow.
Yeah, starting to get the hang of this stuff, having some fun, have some good conversations. Probably start with you today, I think.
Sure.
What do you got? What do you got for me today?
Let's talk some baseball, Ryan. Let's do it.
Okay.
I've got one Nationals topic and then one kind of league-wide topic that is all the rage right now. Let's start with our Nats. I think, first 6 games of the season, 7 games of the season, Nationals start 1-6 through those first 7 games. But you look at the schedule, brutal stretch of teams that you're playing. Phillies, Blue Jays, Diamondbacks. You win a series against the Diamondbacks, which is a nice step in the right direction. Then the Dodgers. It's like a relentless start to the season for a team. Not making excuses. You have to play the schedule you're dealt, but that's what it is. And I've talked to guys, and I'm curious for your take on this, the early stages of a season when you're moving up north from Florida, and I think it was last year, maybe 2 years ago, that the Nationals' first 7 to 8 games were all at different start times. Right. Nothing is consistent early on in the season, and you kind of need to just get through, it feels like, those first couple weeks of the year before you really settle into a flow. That's my view of it. Does that ring true to you?
Yeah, and I've said this for years, too. We're the only sport that plays all of our games preparing for the season at a different time than we play the majority of our games.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
And when you're down in Florida, you're getting there early. I mean, the guys are showing up at 7:30 a.m. because they want to get their work in before they get out on the field. And then you move up here, and your games are at 7, 4, 1, sometime around that. Some of the games are earlier at the beginning because it's still cold, but you have a opening day somewhere, then you have an off day, so you're just all over the place. You're moving, you're unpacking, So for me, it was always like that first 10 days to 2 weeks was a grind. You felt unsettled. You wanted to get into a routine, and you really couldn't. Opening days are awesome, but they also throw your routine off. You're out on the field for a 1:30 game at 12:30 for introductions.
Which never happens.
No, and so it's, like you said, no excuses. You play the schedule you're dealt, but I think the fans should know that first 10 days is, I think, always tough for players to kind of settle in, get into the routine, and usually when that second, third week come around, you're feeling a lot better.
And I get it. It's so easy for fans, for media types, to take those first 6, 7, 10 games and make these broad, sweeping, statements about a certain player or about a team in general or the bullpen or the offense. But it's such a small portion of the schedule, and you hear this all the time as well. You go to any full season and you pick out a 7-game stretch. A team is going to go 1-6 during a 7-game stretch. A team is going to go 2 for 30 with runners in scoring position during that stretch. But it's all that you have to that point in the season. And so it's easy for people to latch on to that. And I understand it. We do it too on our side of things. Yeah. But the reality is we've got a long way to go, and you trust the talent that you have assembled on your roster. You guys did that for years.
Yeah, and I always said you should act like April 1st through April 10th is June 1st through June 10th. And then a lot of the stuff we get really excited about or really upset or depressed about wouldn't matter if you already have 300 at-bats.
Right.
Or you've already started, 15 times or whatever it is. And like you said, it's not easy to do that. All we have are the games that we've played, and everyone's super excited about the start of the season, and then if your team starts 1-6, it's like, oh no, the season's over. It's like, well, take it easy, guys. Like, it'll be okay. Like,
We've
the
played
Dylan
3%
Cruz thing.
of the schedule,
the Dylan Cruz thing. He starts 0 for 18 or whatever it was, and bounced back and had a good series. But he's going to go probably 0 for 18 another time this year. And, Adam Dunn always used to tell me it's 6 100-game seasons for hitters. I mean, not 100 AB seasons. And, in good years, 4 out of those 6, you're going to overperform, and the other 2 are going to be less or below mediocre. And, like, your normal season, you're going to have 2 average months, 2 really good months, and 2 below average months. And you just have to try and stay as steady as you can, and it's not as easy as it sounds.
Dusty used to talk from a team perspective about breaking it down into months.
Yep.
And if you win 15 games a month over a regular season, that gets you to 90 wins. Obviously, different teams have different expectations. And if you're a playoff team, you want to get to 90 wins. But you kind of segment it a little bit in your head, and that allows you to deal with the highs and the lows a little better.
Well, we just play so many games that you can't live and die by a game or a week.
Yep.
And it's hard to understand, and it's hard to do that, but that's just the nature of the beast.
Okay, now I want to talk about something that is getting talked about a lot. So we are probably on the tail end of this talking about because there's been a lot of talking about torpedo bats. Let's get it out there. Torpedo bats, they're all the rage. For those who might not be aware somehow, hitters have started to trend towards some of them, a bat that is using more of the wood in the part of the bat that you want to hit the baseball, the sweet spot. So they're just kind of relocating the wood into a part that you want to hit the ball consistently to drive the baseball, and it produces a torpedo-like shape in the bat. Now, players have tinkered with bats for a long time now.
Forever.
And this is the rage, and baseball is a sport that people latch on to things. What is one team doing? Oh, they're shifting their infield. Maybe we should do that. Or whatever it might be, whatever's the trend at the time. What's your take on torpedo bats? Because to me, this is a lot of talk about something that is cool and different, but 3 months from now, I feel like we're not going to be talking about it all that much at all.
Yeah, I think we'll see what happens. Just like anything, when something new comes out, you don't have enough data or science or anything to really prove a point. I mean, I think the guy from MIT invented it. Hopefully that guy patented it, because he's probably getting some good cash on the back end of that.
Yep.
But I think it makes sense if you think about it. Mm-hmm. I mean, they basically, well, first of all, there's a rule. The barrel can only be so big,
2.61 inches.
So it's
at
within,
a maximum.
It's within specifications, and it's legal.
Yep.
They're just, like you said, shifting the wood from the top of the bat into the barrel, so then the top of the bat is skinny. It kind of looks like a bowling pin.
Yeah.
And it makes sense if you think about it. I mean, what you want to do is hit the ball in the barrel, and when you hit the ball in the barrel, you want to get rewarded the most. You get broken bat singles off the end of the bat, but you're willing to kind of, I think, give away those, or who really cares about those broken bat singles? What you really want is when you do everything correctly and hit the ball in the barrel,
you want the result.
You want the result. And if it goes further, or I don't know what everyone's saying, but if you get more results because of that, then it makes sense. Now, at the end of the day, you still have to hit the ball on the barrel of the bat. And like you said, there's been these things that come and go throughout the history of the game. And I guess we'll see what this ends up doing. But as a player, I can tell you a lot of times it's a placebo effect. If you get a new bat, or you see someone using this bat and they're doing really well, and all of a sudden you take it and hit BP and you're like, oh man, that feels great. Like, then you have confidence. Then you think, oh, I got this new bat. I'm ready to go out and dominate the world. So I think as players and as athletes, a lot of times we're just tricking ourselves into being, we have an advantage, or this is going to really make me this kind of player. And, I'm all for it. Anytime it's a hard game. If you can find something that makes you feel more confident and makes you feel like you can go out there and succeed, I'm here for it.
And you're on the side of the hitters. You're team hitter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the pitchers have all the advantages. Give us an advantage one time. Me and Max used to argue about that all the time. Oh, the balls, the humidor. I'm like, Max, you have the ball. You know what you're going to throw.
You can do whatever you want.
I have less than a second to react, and somehow I'm still getting hits off you, and you want more advantages? So, yeah, I'm team hitter.
Did you tinker with your bat a lot when you played, with the different specifications of it, with the handle, with the cap, with no cap?
So at the beginning of my career, I did. I used, different companies, different models. I think as a young player, you first of all, you're introduced to a lot of models and bats that you just didn't have access to until you got to the big leagues. When you're in the big leagues, you get a lot of things that you don't get if you're in the minor leagues, and then all of a sudden you make an all-star team or you become a guy. Then you get even more cool stuff. But then I think, once you go through all that, you find what you're comfortable with. And I used the same model for the last 12, 13 years of my career, but I did tinker with sort of the weight, the length, the finish. I would use maple sometimes. I would use ash sometimes.
Interesting.
So yeah, I mean, you continually tinker, and if you're 2 for 25, it's obviously not your fault.
It's the bat.
It's 100% the
Yeah,
bat's
for
fault.
sure.
So we'll get rid of that bat and get a new one, and then I'll be a better hitter. Yeah.
All right, good stuff. Ryan, your turn. What do you got this week?
Well, I mean, I think we got to talk about the grade 8.
We got
about
to.
Ovi. I think what an unbelievable career. And I've said this before, I think it's so cool that he has done it all here. And I would, commend him for that, but also Mr. Leonsis and the Caps organization for making sure that he stayed here. But just his reliability, his consistency. I mean, before this year, obviously he had the broken leg this year, which somehow he only missed 16 games, I think
The guy's a freak.
But he's been durable.
Yeah.
And it's not like he doesn't play recklessly. I mean, this guy's an animal. He's 1,000 miles per hour at all times. So I just, obviously the record's unbelievable. It's one of those records that nobody thought anyone would ever touch. But the way he did it and the way he played every single time is pretty impressive. So, it's so cool for the city. I mean, he's by far, I think, the best athlete to ever play in this area. But he's meant so much to the city as far as, what hockey has grown, I think, because of him. Obviously the DC fans, the Caps fans love him. It's just been fun to watch him, and I've gotten to know him a little bit throughout the years. When we were young, we hung out a little bit here and there, and then as we've both gotten older and are married and have kids, we see each other around. But I just have so much respect for how he plays the game, how he went about his business every day. Just couldn't be happier. And I was watching it, and then you see Gretzky and all these guys, and you watch his teammates, and I think anytime he would break a record, and obviously this is a crazy record, but you watch and everyone is so happy for him. And I think when your teammates appreciate you that much, it kind of shows you what type of person you are.
Yeah, they revere him. It's obvious. And I texted you, I saw the clip of Nicholas Backstrom going into the dressing room after the game and walked up to Ovi and gave him a hug. And it wasn't just one of those, pat you on the back twice, dap you up, and that type of a hug. It was an emotional moment, and they looked into each other's eyes, and you can see how much those two mean to each other, and to your point, how much Ovi is revered by his teammates. And I just want to put some numbers on this because I guess that's my role here. He's 39 years old. His record-breaking goal that got him to 895 was number 42 this season. In 61 games played, the goal that broke it was his 7th goal in 7 games. A lot of times you see guys get to career milestones like this, and they're understandably so, limping to the finish line, maybe literally limping to the finish line. And this guy's putting up 42-goal seasons after breaking his leg and missing time. It's unbelievable the level of performance that he has managed to maintain throughout his career that has allowed him to get to this point. And I think it's cool hearing your perspective on this as a guy who only played in Washington, D.C. in his career, to admire what Ovi has done. And that's something that is incredibly rare these days. You don't see that across sports.
Right, and I think he has a ton of respect for Ted Leonsis and that organization. And, I think, the respect, and I've always said it's a two-way street. You don't stay somewhere first of all, if the player doesn't want to stay there, but second of all, the organization has to want you to stay there as well. And both sides have to give a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, the player is possibly giving up some money or the ability to go be a free agent. And the team is obviously putting some risk out there, signing someone to a long-term deal. I mean, there's health factors, there's decline, there's, so it takes both of them. But, I want to go back to what you were saying about Nick too. And, Backy was such an unbelievable player, one of the best centers, certainly in Caps history, and possibly, he's a possible Hall of Famer.
I believe they introduced him when he was there for the record tying game when Ovi tied it at home. I think they introduced him throughout the arena as the best center in Capitals history.
Yeah, and, so he assisted on tons of those.
Yep.
And, they came up together. Nicky obviously only played for one team as well, and the end of his career kind of with the injuries and stuff was tough, which maybe we'll talk about that. I don't know. Maybe.
Little tease to our next guest after this episode, 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, I think
what do you got?
We might have some of the hockey boys on. We might have a little Osh and a little Backy. Talk some obviously hockey, but both of those guys live in this city, have kind of chose to stay in this city. Our kids play together. They're raising their families here. So just a little tease, but maybe we can ask them what that hug felt like.
I love it. I love it. Nicholas Backstrom and TJ Oshie on the next 11th Inning podcast.
Yeah, but just unbelievable accomplishment for Ovi, and, did it the right way. Just another awesome moment for DC sports, too. And, the fans in this city deserve stuff like that, and I'm just happy for everyone involved.
Well, let's get to this week's guest on the 11th Inning podcast. When we come back, Ryan and I are going to chat with Maryland, D.C. area legend and ESPN host, SportsCenter anchor, Scott Van Pelt, SVP, with us next on the 11th Inning podcast. Welcome back to the 11th Inning podcast. I'm Dan, he's Ryan, and joining us now is ESPN anchor, host, jack of all trades, Scott Van Pelt, a native of Brookville, Maryland. He went to Sherwood High School. He went to the University of Maryland. He is a local boy through and through, and we're thrilled to have him on the podcast today. Scott, how are you, buddy?
I'm great, Dan. Zim, it's a pleasure to be on with you. I appreciate you taking a little time to let me visit.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you taking time. Obviously, you're probably one of the busiest guys in all of sports, I would say, and we've gotten to know each other a little bit over the years, and as cool and nice of a guy as you seem like on TV, I can confirm that it probably is true in real life as well. So
probably. She said probably. Maybe. It's maybe
that qualifier in there.
But I just think, you're such a staple, I would say for our generation, but I mean, you've been on TV for so long now. I was actually looking it up just because I was curious before we came on. And I mean, it's been 25.
A long time.
Yeah, but like it doesn't.
You're old, man.
It doesn't,
that's what Zim's trying to say.
But it doesn't seem
Yeah.
like that. It doesn't seem like that at all. But you become like, our generation's like
Totally.
ESPN guy, and you're so good at so many different things. But anyway, it's just an honor to have you here. We're going to talk a little bit of baseball, obviously. We're going to talk some golf, talk a little bit of everything.
And a UVA guy and a UMD guy on the same podcast. Is this going to be okay?
Yeah, we're good. I think we're good, right? I'm good if you're good.
I'm good. Well, I'm good. The last time the football teams played, I think Maryland won. Last time Lax played this spring, Maryland won.
Yeah.
Baseball, you guys, listen. It's
Baseball,
we're
you're
good.
coming back. You're coming back, and like football doesn't.
Swope's going to get him there. He's going to get him there.
Football, that's a sore subject with UVA people, but maybe this is the year we get back. We'll get some NIL
All right,
money
let's go.
and get going.
Let's go Wahoos. Wahoo Wah.
Well, Scott, I'll be the tiebreaker in your corner. I went to University of Delaware, but I'm from Silver Spring. I went to Einstein High School, so I am a Terps fan on the basketball side of things, and I have my Maryland allegiances. So we outnumber Zim in this category here. Let's get into
Right on.
Let's get into some of this stuff. We're recording this podcast with you. We're gonna air it the week of the Masters, which is just such a special event, and Ryan, you're going to be able to pop down there as well. You've covered a bunch of these things now, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking to someone about Augusta and about the Masters experience. What's something about that entire week, the entire process, that you think people don't know, but they should?
I guess the best way to put it is that in your mind, you imagine it being a certain way, and you imagine that it's pristine, and you imagine that it's green and everything's just so. And then you get there and you realize that you can't dream in Technicolor, if that makes any sense. It's so much better than you can possibly comprehend. And I mean, Zim's been there, and so he can speak to it from his perspective. But just that you'll hear people talk about, I had no idea it was so hilly. And if the 10th hole, it's a par 4, on the second 9 begins, and you see it on TV, and you know, it goes downhill a little bit. What I've said forever, Dan, is if you were in a neighborhood where it snowed, that would be the hill where everyone came to go sledding.
I love
because it goes straight down the hill. I mean, straight down the hill. You have no concept of that. And the story goes that the difference in elevation between the 16th green and the 18th green is something on the order of 10 stories, but you don't really picture that because 17 comes uphill slightly, then 18 comes uphill even more dramatically. So just the topography of the place is more than your mind can picture. But then again, it's so much better than you imagined it, and you probably imagined it being great. And so I say this often, nothing in my many, many years of doing this has the power to exceed your expectation the way going to Augusta National does.
Yeah, and I'm going to take my dad and my wife down there this year. And my favorite thing about there is it's like you go back in time. There's no phones. People are actually in the present there. Like we're so busy. Everyone's always thinking about what's next during their day. People are like polite and enjoy
what a concept.
And enjoy talking to strangers. And when they open the fairway ropes, they let like the older patrons go first, and people care about each other there. And it's just so refreshing to go to a place and you're actually talking about what's going on in the moment where you're at. So I think for me, that was the thing I noticed. Obviously, the topography and this sheer perfection of the place, but the people there, everyone's friendly, everyone's happy to be there, everyone's in a good mood. It's just a great place to spend a day because that doesn't happen that often anymore. And, sports brings people together, but I think that place brings everyone together and gives everyone such a special experience that it's just so special for everyone that can go there.
The phones is a big part of that too, I think, Zim, because we're all guilty of just mindlessly scrolling. Someone's texted, and then you gotta, whatever it is. I mean, it's a convenience for all of us, and we use it for reasons that benefit us. But unplugging from it and being present in the present, actually looking somebody in the eye and enjoying their company. And the thing I tell people often is, if you're standing, there's this gigantic oak tree, Dan, behind the clubhouse, and that's where sort of folks will try to meet. And if I'll just stand and listen, and you'll hear all around you, all you hear are groups of people laughing. And I'll point out to people that are new, I'll say, listen, and they'll say, what? And I'll say, just listen. And over here, over there, I was like, that's the soundtrack of this week. People reconnecting, people that see each other maybe once a year, maybe people have never been there, but there's just this genuine laughter because everyone's in a good mood. Everyone is on their best behavior because everyone's just psyched to be there. And I'm always struck by this. The people who are there are among the most accomplished people in the world, and they could be anywhere in the world. And this is where they want to be, and you're there too. And so it just puts you in this state of mind where you're like, well, this is pretty cool, and I'm there to work. But I mean, as gigs go, pretty good gig.
Yeah. Speaking of working there, what's the coolest person or coolest conversation you've ever had there? Not on set, or not like standing around the oak tree, or someone that you ran into, or something that pops out. I'm putting you on the spot, but something that pops out that it's probably tough to narrow it down to one.
Oh, I mean, there's different sort of flavors, if you will. I mean, seeing people from different walks of life that you just don't imagine. I'm in the Butler cabin last year, and I opened the door, and the door was here, and I opened the door, and there is large as life is Jelly Roll. I didn't expect to see Jelly Roll standing here in the Butler cabin. And I sent out this picture of me, Jim Nantz, and Jelly Roll in the Butler cabin. And the text just said, "Hello, friends." and people are like, didn't have that, on the bingo card.
Yeah.
The thing about that place is you look up and there's Jelly Roll, or there's Josh Allen, or there's some titan of industry, or some actor or actress. And it's just mind-boggling the what and who it attracts. Josh told me a couple of years ago that he had been coming for about 3 or 4 years, and he had been invited, and he was there with his dad, like you, Zim, and he said, I will come forever if they invite me. And here he is now, the MVP of the league, one of the great NFL players of our time, and he's like a kid in a candy store. I think it has that capacity to make people just feel that wonder. And so I guess that's not a conversation necessarily, but like that to me is the essence of who and what the place attracts, and you just don't know who you'll see. And the thing about Jelly Roll or Josh Allen or whomever is they're not Jelly Roll or Josh Allen. They're just a patron that's there. They're riding the wave the same as, somebody from Aiken, South Carolina, or somebody from Bethesda, Maryland, or McLean, Virginia, wherever it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's an evening in the playing field that's just so cool about it because everybody feels the same way.
Well, and or like you said, or one of my buddies from Virginia Beach that enter the lottery every year to try and get tickets. And I think the cool thing about it as well, and I'm going to say this, being like you can go there as a Scott Van Pelt or a Josh Allen, and you can walk around and nobody stops you to take a picture. Nobody asks you to make a video for their 12-year-old son. And not that I don't enjoy doing that, but I think it makes Josh Allen or Jelly or these guys
puts everyone on a level playing field, so to speak.
It's just nice for them to just go. And when it's not as invasive of an atmosphere, we're more willing to just converse with people. Be
human beings, yeah.
And you don't need to be in a suite. You don't need to be up in on the 17th green at TPC in your private area. You just you mingle and you interact with everyone. And I just wish more places were like that.
Yeah.
That's the old I'm talking about how he's old. I feel like I'm an old man in spirit. I like the no phones. I like
totally.
My wife wears me out about it, but I think it makes everything better.
Well, Scott, we'd talk about the Masters specifically, but you're a golf guy and have been a golf guy for a long time now, and golf played a very important part in your career, from what I understand. You got your start in D.C. at Fox 5, and then you make your way to the Golf Channel. What do you think, as you kind of pull back on your career as a whole, what is the importance of golf in getting you to the place that you are now?
I mean, I shudder to think what I'd be doing if it weren't for golf. I mean, I worked for Steve Buckhantz, as an intern, and we love to tell the stories. Gus Johnson worked there, I think, a little bit after I did. It was me and Kevin Sheehan were there around the same time.
Hold
and
on,
obviously
Gus Johnson for golf?
No. Gus
Fox
was
5.
at Channel 5.
Okay, I was like, that would be an interesting voice for golf.
Tiger! No, it was he was following me as an intern for Steve Buckhantz at Channel 5.
Okay.
And at the same time that I was there interning, Kevin Sheehan was there. So, I mean, Buck has been, it's like his coaching tree, if you will, right? He's got a bunch of folks that, got lucky in this gig. But I went there to the Golf Channel when it started. And Dan, I met Tiger Woods when he was a freshman at Stanford. And for whatever reason, he and I just sort of clicked where I was older than him, but young enough where we just were able to just vibe probably in a different way, right? Like the conversation was just, I've told this story often. My dad had this line, treat normal people like superstars, treat superstars like normal people. And so my conversation, like with Zim or with Tiger or with whomever, is just the same as we're talking right now. You just treat people like people, and we got along well. And then he became this thing, this true global superstar, arguably the most famous athlete in the world. I mean, that's what he became. And I was the guy that was just right there kind of along for the ride. And then ESPN around the year like 2001, when he was destroying everything in his path, Jimmy Roberts was at ESPN. He left to go to NBC. Another Terp, by the way. He got out of the way at ESPN so that they needed a guy. And here I was, and I slid into that spot at ESPN. So, I mean, kind of a long-winded answer, but I mean, without golf, none of this happens. And, you know, the cool thing is, like, you know, now we're older, and, you know, Tiger unfortunately has had all these injuries, and I mean, anything could happen, but the odds of him winning like another major are probably pretty remote. So we're in a different place in our lives now, but it's been cool that, like, just man to man, friend to friend, if you will, I've been able to tell him, look, dude, like, my life that I have only exists because of you. And so he loves to tell me, without me, there's no you. And we laugh, but it's the truth. Yeah. It's the truth. He single-handedly is responsible for what happened in my life. Could it have happened without him? Maybe, but I would suggest almost certainly not. So the game in general, and him specifically, kind of put me on the path that led to me being back home here in Maryland and doing the show from downtown.
Yeah, and I think, you know, just like sports, it's you get an opportunity and you have to take advantage of it. You know, the golf channel was sort of your intro, and I think we've talked about Andy North before.
Oh yeah,
and how he was one of the guys that, you know, was a mentor and taught you the right way to do things. But, you know, I think people love watching you and love you as a person because of what you just said. You treat people like normal people. Like when you watch your broadcast or your show, I mean, it's like you're sitting on the couch with me and Dan, you and Stanford. Like the Bad Beats segment is, I mean, I can't tell you how much, like, you guys were ahead of the game there.
Totally ahead of the game. Before sports betting was nearly as prevalent as it is today.
Oh, for sure. And I give there were two guys that were in charge of ESPN at the time, John Skipper and a guy named John Wildhack, who's now the SID at Syracuse. And they gave me an opportunity to do SportsCenter at midnight. And I just said, look, I'm going to take some of the stuff we did on the radio and put it on TV. And one of them was Bad Beats. Now, the point I made is, listen, it's kind of like smoking weed. Whether it's legal or not, people have gotten high for a while. And people bet. And so I said, the thing about this segment, you got to trust me on this, is that whether you have 100 on the Pistons or not, if they lose in some excruciating fashion, just the process of showing what happened is going to be entertaining.
People love pain. America's Funniest Home Videos was on TV forever.
And I think it was just sort of like, just throw it against the wall, and if it sticks, great. And if it doesn't, so be it. But like, it's become this thing that whether it, like, and it's, I'm not trying to name drop, but it is funny to me, like, whether it's Zim or whether it's like Charles Barkley. Charles is constantly like, we'll do the segment, Charles will be like, I had USC, I had Alabama, and I'm like, Charles, you got to stop like laying points, man. And it's just hysterical to me. Like it is a great unifier, right? That's what I always say. It's the shared misery. We're in this together. But it's been fun to always, whether it's waving the flag for Maryland, and you know you're going to have to take crap if they lose in bad fashion, but people like knowing that you have skin in the game. People like knowing that you care the way they care. Chris Berman 100 years ago, just he really shared that with me, that, you know, your passion as a fan, if you're authentic with that, they're never going to begrudge you that. And, you know, Bad Beats is a different example of it, but it's a way to show that, you know, you're kind of bellying up at the bar with anybody else and you get it. And so it's definitely been one that worked out for us.
Yeah, and I'm guilty as charged. Like you said, I didn't
want to bring you up. I didn't want to bring you up.
I'm retired. I'm retired now, so I'm good to go. But
there you go.
You know, it's you know, me and my buddies at home. You know, like you said, everyone does it. Whether it's a $5 bet with your buddy on this or that, but the Bad Beats is like, you know, everyone's talked about it for the forever. And you know, I'll text him, and sometimes he'll text me back, and I'll send a screenshot to my buddies at home, and they're like, "That's the coolest thing I've ever seen." But like people love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think what if we talk a little bit about your Monday Night Football stuff? And I think this city is pretty excited about the football team we have here.
Oh yeah.
And I kind of like hearing your perspective, maybe a quick perspective. I think the GM has completely changed the game there. Dan Quinn comes in and changes the culture, but obviously I don't want to jinx the guy, but it seems like we've sort of hit the jackpot with the QB, which is the name of the game in the NFL. But I've seen some of his interviews, and obviously he's a tremendous player, but the more I see him talk, the more I see him interviewed, the more I see the way he handles himself, he seems like he has that side of it, which as an NFL QB, I think is half the battle, to be honest. I'd like to hear your thoughts. You know more about it.
Well, I think you nailed it. First of all, you get Adam Peters, who's awesome.
Yep.
Just a great dude to begin with. Then you get, speaking of great dudes, you get DQ, Dan Quinn,
Yep.
and he gets another opportunity. And then, I say and then as if it's the most important thing, Zim, and you nailed it. You have to have a quarterback in this league. Have to.
And if you have him on a rookie contract, then you really are doing good.
Well, and you better make it count,
Yep.
which is why I think you're seeing them push their chips into the middle, going out and get Laramie Tunsil at left tackle, going out to get Deebo Samuel as another weapon on offense. I mean, you're probably going to look, I would think, some defense on the draft because you could use some help on that side of the ball. But when you get the chance to take the quarterback, you just have to hope that he's that guy that you think he is. And many times in the National Football League, he's not. Daniels is. And, excuse me, Cliff Kingsbury is a guy I've known for many, many years, going back to his time in Texas Tech in college when me and Russillo were doing radio, and we'd have Cliff on as a guest with us, kind of ahead of the curve with Cliff. Like, this guy's just awesome. And, obviously went to the NFL as a head coach, and now he's here as an OC. I think he'll probably be a head coach again. But very early on, fellas, he told me, this guy, Daniels, man, he's got that thing.
Yeah.
And that thing is the talent on the field, yes. But when a young man shows up to be the leader of grown men, and you would know this from locker rooms, man, if imagine some 21-year-old dude walks in the locker room is going to tell you as a vet, like, here's what we're going to do. You'd be like, yeah, okay. Well, if that person has the capacity to lead by example, to elevate everybody by his level of play, but at the same time knows he doesn't know everything, is eager to learn, is coachable, doesn't have a massive ego, and then goes out there and does it, you can't ask for more than that. In fact, you probably can't ask for all of that. And he showed up from the jump with it. And so I hear in May, like, man, he's the dude. You're like, okay, well, sure. And then lo and behold, they're in the NFC Championship game in his rookie year. And so, again, I was lucky enough, because I'm older, to have seen the then Redskins be what they were, which was great. And then, like all of us, I lived through these decades where they weren't. And so last year was just so much fun to feel like new coach, new GM, new culture. It's such an easy thing to say, such a hard thing to do. And it all changed in a year.
Yep.
And it becomes the place where guys around the league are like, hey, you know what I want to do? I want to go to Washington.
Yep.
Whereas for years it was like, well, I guess I'll go to Washington. It's just a totally different feeling now. So, it's fun. I always say be optimistic because it costs the same. Optimism was a little more expensive for Washington Commanders fans for a while, and now all of a sudden it's pretty cheap again.
Well, Zim, I think you probably felt this here with the Nationals when, you had been around for a lot of losing, and then the tide starts turning, and then you have guys that are willing to maybe take a little bit less to come here or buy into the culture, and that really does feel, from an outsider's perspective, to Scott's point, like it can be, the narrative can change pretty quickly. And I think you probably felt that here firsthand.
Yeah, and I was going to ask Scott about this too, because I will say he went to the University of Maryland and he's an Orioles fan and he's on the podcast. So we really do love you that much to bring you
Thanks,
on.
pal. Thanks, pal.
But I was going to say, the Orioles are kind of went through what we've been going through now for the last 3-4 years. We win the World Series. Business decisions happen. The Orioles are now obviously ascending and they have a great young team. I was going to ask him if he's paid attention to our young core at all and we're sort of a couple years behind. I think this year is going to be fun to watch. If we take the next step forward this year, then you might go out in this offseason and make a couple moves, and then all of a sudden you're there. And then you talk about changing that culture. For us, it was 2012, we start to win. Jason Worth comes over. The culture changes. Hey, this is what we need to do to win now. These little things matter, and you take that next step. So it's fun. I mean, he can obviously with the Orioles, and he's a very knowledgeable baseball fan. We've talked baseball quite a bit, but I think for Nationals fans to see James Wood, Dylan Cruz, a handful of these guys that we've gotten in the draft because we weren't the best team. We had the number 1 pick again this year, so that'll be fun. It's a fun time to be a fan. It's not fun to lose, but to see a young core grow like the Orioles have done, then I think makes it that much more special when you get to the point that they're at.
But I would say this, just, Dan, he'd never do it, but I'd say it about him. Like, you talk culture. Zim, you were such a core part of the reason why that team had that remarkable run that it did. Like, a guy that could be looked to and trusted in the clutch moments. And I mean, I think back as I sit here right now, what you guys did, and like you won all 4 games in the World Series on the road, didn't you?
Yes. That's right.
In a place where, as we learned, it was pretty difficult to win, wasn't it?
Yeah, they had an advantage.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you. It was almost like we're at the 1.5. So in a sense, you really kind of won 6 games. Yeah. I'll give you 1.5 because each win there was, you really had to earn it, didn't you? But culture, you were such a core part of why that team did it. And then, as you say, I mean, you have to go through it. Baltimore fans, and I'm that, and the reason I'm that is because the Senators were gone by the time I was here, and then the Nationals came after I left. Too young for the Senators, too old for the Nationals. So, yeah, I'm an Oriole fan, which, has always been kind of a fun thing between you and I. But they went through it. God, they were horrible. I mean, horrible. And then you got to get it right. And that's the thing I think the Nationals fans are excited about. Some of these young guys have shown maybe you got it right. That's hard to do. Harder to do in baseball than football, certainly. But I hope for Nationals fans that you all are, and it feels like maybe you're, because the Orioles have made the playoffs the last couple of years. You're probably a couple of years behind, but you hope they're on the same type of trajectory where you can find your version of Gunnar that's the guy, right? That you could say, all right, well, we're going to have to build around this. Probably not going to be able to keep everybody because that's just the way baseball goes. Orioles lost Santander. Obviously, you love to keep that bat in the lineup, but it didn't happen because you only have so much money. But that's the thing that we've seen with Baltimore. And then, like, they let me get my hand on the ball. I threw out the first pitch against Kansas City, and then in 2 days they scored 1 run. I'm pretty sure it's my fault. I'll just eat that and say, just don't give me the pearl before you guys walk out there. But that 2-day window against the Royals is just speaks to how excruciating playoff baseball is. You've got to come up big when the moment is there. And if you don't, then, you go home in 2 days. So I don't know. For Nationals fans, again, it feels like you saw some of that optimism, I think, with the young guys that showed up. And if they can build on it, then I root for them. But I rooted for you, certainly, when you guys won. I was thrilled for the city. I was thrilled for you specifically. But I'm always an Oriole fan. I can't make any apology for that. Like, that's just, I grew up in Memorial Stadium because that's where I had to go when I was a kid. So,
well, the good news is you would only have to really make a decision if it came to the World Series. So, different leagues, you're good to go.
I think that's true. I mean, and seriously, like, and I'm not kidding when I say this. Like, as an adult person, I don't think you can just throw on a hat and say, "Hey, this is cool." Because a lot of sort of poser National fans, that was the accusation. Like, when you guys got hot, because this is a bandwagon town to a degree. But you know what? So what? If the park's filled and people are ready to have a parade, man, welcome to the party. I would think.
I mean, we've talked about this too, ad nauseum in this city. Like, that's every big city. Every big city, unless you're Boston or Chicago, like,
that's fair.
That LA people don't show up till the 3rd inning in Game 7 of the.
Yes.
So,
that's true.
I mean, it is what it is. But I want to go back to with baseball. Baseball is such a special sport to me because, like, in the NBA, if you had peak LeBron, you were making the playoffs.
No doubt.
If you have Tom Brady as your quarterback, you're making the playoffs. You could have Gunnar Henderson. You could have, like, one person doesn't do anything for you in baseball. And I think that's the beauty of baseball and why chemistry and leadership and really the people you have in the clubhouse do matter. You're around each other every day. I say it all the time. You spend more time with them than your actual family for 7 straight months. So you have to have a special group of people to go through the goods, the bads. It's just such a long season that you have to draft and you have to sign guys that you know are going to be good and follow each other. And I always say I got a good opportunity to be around Derek Jeter a good amount in Florida when I would work out and get ready. And you talk about the ultimate leader, captain, whatever you want to call. I mean, biggest market of all time, never made excuses, was always playing the game the right way. And like, that's the prototypical leader that you want. Obviously everyone would want Derek Jeter, but that's to me what makes baseball so special.
I agree. I'm curious about, just from your perspective, the thing about Jeter that always blew my mind is here's a guy that showed up as a young man in Manhattan as a handsome single shortstop of the Yankees and managed to largely just keep it between the mustard and the mayonnaise for an entire career, not screw up, not do something stupid, lead the right way, play the right way. And you would. How hard is that to do? I mean, I would say damn near impossible. I think Eli did it to a large degree. Like he had more highs and lows, but just, I don't know how you do that.
Ryan, your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think his parents are unbelievable.
Yeah, that's a good point.
His family and the way he was raised, to make sure, like, going into that situation, he was well prepared. But then you actually, like you said, have to do it. You have to. Everyone can be well prepared, and then you go out and there's, 4, famous people at a bar that all want to talk to you, and you're getting opportunities to this, do that. Like, then you actually have to be disciplined and follow through with it. So, that's why he's one of a kind, and I don't think there'll ever be anyone like him again.
No shot.
Scott, we've taken up a lot of your time. We won't take up too much more. I do have one more broad question for you, and then we're going to have some fun with some rapid fire ones. I did want to ask you, Zim and I were talking before we started recording with you, just about how you're just a dude, man. Like you're the same guy as everybody else who's watching sports and putting a little action on something and having fun with their buddies. You just happen to be on ESPN every night. So I'm curious for your perspective on sports as a whole. They're not important in the grand scheme of things, but they hold so much significance to so many. Why do you think that's the case?
I would disagree. I think you're right, Dan, that they're not important in the grand scheme, and yet they matter so much because there's so much divisiveness. There's so much, and we live in the city where it's this or that. And it's never been more sort of butting of heads. And yet, and it's why people like a lot of shows are political. Mine's not, because I really don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Because all you want to know is, did the Nats win? Did the Orioles win? Did the Caps win? And if they didn't, why didn't they? And if it sucked that something terrible happened in the end and you laid 6.5 and they only won by 4, like the connectivity of sports, it's the greatest connector that we have. And so I have leaned into the fact that it's the last great thing we seemingly have that we all collectively care about, no matter where we arrive to the stadium from. And I treat it that way. And I still, and I'm lucky, I suppose, that I still have the same enjoyment and attachment to it. And I feel really lucky that I've gotten to know the people that are on the inside. Like when the Nats went on the run, it was cool because I had a friend that played third base, and it's like, man, that's just so cool for him. Like that, seriously. Like, I mean, but I felt that way. Like, man, this is so awesome for that guy that this gets to happen, and that the city gets to go on this joyride. And I've never been afraid to fly the flag of whether it's the Caps or the Orioles or Maryland or the Commanders or whatever, because we're all from somewhere, and I'm from here.
Yeah.
And so I think along the way, certainly I've benefited, Dan, in the last 5-10 years, that the way this business is viewed is that you don't have to sign some Hippocratic oath where I'm completely objective. Well, that's bull. Excuse me, I'm on. You
No,
can
you're
beat
good.
me or whatever.
You're
We're
good.
All right, well, but it's bullshit. Like we all root for something. Like, and so just lean into that and let people know. And so I don't think I think I'm the same guy. And if there's a reason that it's worked, it's because of that. Is that I'm just a guy the same as anyone. Look at me. I'm bald-headed, and thanks for Zim pointing out, now I'm basically elderly, probably damn near dead. But here I am, just
Any day now.
trotting along with my walker, one step in front of the other. Like trot out the peepaw and let's do the show. But I'll be that guy until they pull the plug. You know what I mean? Like if there's a secret, youngsters, it's just be who you are, and like don't try to be anything else.
Love it.
That's awesome. You got anything else, or you want to roll into the rapid fire stuff?
Let's go to the rapid
And
fire.
I have a question before you start rapid fire.
Oh,
I
okay.
have one question for Zim at the end about that Nationals team, if I'm allowed to ask it at
Of
the end of
course.
rapid fire.
Yeah.
Love it.
Let's do
All right,
that.
cool.
Well, Scott, we're calling our rapid fire portion of every interview that we do 5 walk-off questions from Mr. Walk-Off.
I like that.
Yeah, we have
So-
a couple. We have a couple that we ask everyone, and then we have a couple that we're just going to start doing with you. So you kind of answered this first, and I'd like to ask everyone like their favorite motto or how you live your life. And you said your dad, treat
normal
superstars
people like
yes.
superstars. Treat superstars like normal people. That's a central tenet of how I try to do it.
I love that.
That's one of the best I've ever heard because if you think about it, superstars and people that are like you on TV, you just want to be treated like a normal person. You're tired of people treating you differently.
No, actually, I want people to shower me with love and praise.
Gifts.
And
Yeah,
give
that's
me
you.
money.
That's you.
Hand me money and thank me for being.
That's you.
Money, please.
All right, second one. Favorite DC restaurant?
That's I don't know if it's cliche. I don't care. I love to go to Cafe Milano. I feel like a big shot. I get the cacio e pepe. Call it a day. Let's go.
They nail it there, man. They treat you. They definitely don't treat you like a normal person there.
I love that spot.
It's so good. Best golf course ever played? This is probably impossible for you to answer, but
Oh no, it's not. It's very easy. It's my favorite golf course, and this is the truth. People that have listened to me through the years are going to know what I'm going to say. The Midway Par 3 in Lewis, Delaware. I have played 10,000 holes there. It's where I play with my buddies in the summertime. We're younger men. We used to go to Dewey. Now you go a little further south because we don't exist in that space. We just drive up past the outlet malls. The Midway Par 3 in Lewis, Delaware. It used to be $14 you could play all day. Now it might be 22. I don't care. They could charge me $100. I'd be thrilled to pay it. I've been lucky to play like the top 100 type courses. But if you said, Scott, you get one more round before you die, not thinking twice. Midway, I'll meet you there. We'll throw some beers on ice. We'll get a pull cart and we'll play until the sun goes
That's
down.
incredible.
And that's the
What an
truth.
answer.
No joke.
What an answer.
epic. All right. Favorite ESPN personality to be around?
Wow. I mean, Stanford Steve's my guy. He's just the best. Through the years, and he's not there anymore. Neil Everett was a guy that I bonded with in a truly special way. Like he's spent a lot of time in Hawaii, and if you talk about the aloha spirit and what that sort of is, like Neil Everett, like that's my guy, like forever and ever and ever. So I mean, he worked there long enough to forever be an ESPN personality. Neil Everett is my guy.
All right. Last one. We ask everybody. Go-to karaoke song.
I'll sing American Pie because I want everyone to sit through 9 minutes of me just like letting it rip.
You guys got to wear it.
Yep, Jay, sit back and relax because this goes on for 10 minutes. But I can sing, and you're gonna enjoy this. So enjoy. I don't even know if that's on a karaoke, but can you imagine? You're like sitting there and you're like ready to hear Low Places or whatever, and somebody's like, "A long, long time ago." And you're like, "Oh no."
Yeah. Order another round
This-
of drinks.
Yeah, it's your friends are
Bartender.
doing that. Imagine the strangers that don't know you that are reacting that way. Oh, that's special.
Maybe early on in the night when people aren't even lubed up
Yes.
yet, just punish them with that song.
Right. That punishment's the right word.
Yeah.
I have one. Am I allowed to ask it, or
Yes,
are we done?
yeah. Hit us.
Absolutely, fire away.
All right. So when I'm not a catchphrase guy, but Jason Worth to me looked like Kenny Loggins. And so whenever Jason Worth would hit a home run, I would say, did you know that Kenny Loggins was once married in the nude? Because Kenny Loggins, the legend goes, was married once naked. And so Jason Worth would hit home runs. His home run calls was Kenny Loggins was once married in the nude. I don't know that he would know that. And from your reaction, it seems like you don't know that either. So I guess the answer is no. I just would want to know, did it bother Jason Worth that I mentioned Kenny Loggins' nudity anytime he hit a home run?
Should I FaceTime him right now?
I'm actually upset that I've never heard of this.
I haven't either.
And I can also tell you that he would love it without a doubt.
He's certainly not upset.
Okay, good.
That's right up his alley. I feel like
Good.
J-Dub might be married in the nude.
Maybe
at one point.
Jason Worth got married
as well.
Maybe he was married in the nude.
Anything is possible with him.
There's a decent chance.
Yeah.
That, you know.
I feel like he was the inventor of that look, the long, scraggly, kind of wet hair and beard. I feel like he's the godfather of that look. That there are a lot of guys that have it now, but he's truly the G.
And
the
he
OG.
could have been anything. He could have been a rock star. He could have been without a home. He could have really any possible
And
outcome.
he stuck
there.
with it. He stuck with it too.
Yeah, he did.
He was loyal to the look. You
Yeah.
know, it was no matter what.
Awesome. Scott, thanks so much for joining us, man. It's been a pleasure just kind of going through your career and talking about sports in general and letting you and Zim have some laughs and sharing that with all of our fans. So thanks for taking the time and joining us on the pod, man.
It's a thrill. I'm happy to do it, and I hope that I see you boys somewhere this summer. The ballpark down in your neighborhood. That sounds like a good spot to do that. Let's do it.
Well, you're welcome anytime, obviously. I don't play anymore, but I think I could still get you tickets. So
He knows a guy.
You probably get better tickets than me now, so that's good. But yeah,
You got to have a guy. My dad always used to say, "Buzz, you got to have a guy." So you're my guy, Zim. I'll see you guys down in DC.
All
Thanks,
right.
Scott. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott. See you soon, bud.
Thanks, fellas.
Awesome stuff there from SVP. Stay with us here on the 11th Inning Podcast with Kolko and Zim. We'll have Mailbag when we bring you right back. Welcome back to the 11th Inning Podcast. Dan Kolko, Ryan Zimmerman, and you guys have been great about submitting us your emails. The email address again is 11th.inning at nationals.com, 11th.inning at nationals.com. Send us your emails, and we would love to continue reading them at the end of every 11th Inning Podcast. Ryan, they're rolling in now. People are fired up to get their questions.
I love it. I love seeing what you guys think and, make them fun. They can be about baseball, but they can also be about anything else you want too. Kind of encourage the anything else part instead of baseball.
For sure, and we've got a little bit of that to come here in mere minutes. Let's start with a question from Bob in Gainesville, who says, I have two questions for you. Number one, which stadium has the best visitors clubhouse? Number two, which former teammates were the best and worst golfers? Thanks. Keep up the good work and go Nats.
All right. So anytime anyone asks me about visiting places, I always just, for some reason, it's always San Diego for me.
Oof.
I mean, you only go once a year. The weather's incredible. My biggest thing is like the hotel we stay at is literally connected to the park. Like you take the elevator down from your room. There's a nice coffee shop in the hotel. Grab a coffee. You take an escalator up. There's a walking bridge. So, we're obviously getting there before anyone's in the stadium. So you just walk down the third base concourse, get on the field, and you're literally in your locker, stopping for coffee from your hotel room in less than 10 minutes. You're there. So there's no bus. There's no bus times.
No traffic.
Oh, it's the best. And also the visiting guy there is unbelievable.
Awesome dude.
I mean, the food, after the game, drinks, literally whatever you need. So San Diego's my best visiting clubhouse.
Which former teammates were the best and worst golfers?
Well, we had a lot of good golfers. Nobody's really a bad golfer. They just don't play. So it's funny, like baseball guys, one of the only things we're allowed to do contractually is play golf. I mean, I call it the no fun paragraph in the contract, literally about this long. Lists all the things that if you get hurt doing this, we can void your contract. So you steer clear of those for the entirety of the contract. But some of the best, Levon Hernandez was a great golfer. Adam LaRoche is an unbelievable golfer. He plays golf just like he plays baseball.
Just fluid.
Looks like he's about to fall asleep.
Yeah.
But, he would not golf all off season. He goes and lives in Kansas and hunts, and then would come to spring training and then throw like a 73 out there the first round he played.
Wow.
Yeah. Tyler Clippard, really good golfer.
Yep.
Grew up playing high school golf in the state of Florida. Sean Burnett, good golfer. Craig Stammen, really good golfer. Man, there was a stretch of like 4 or 5 years there where we had like 8 guys that were like all 8 were for sure under like 7 handicap, and like probably 4 of them were under 5 handicaps. So we'd go out there with 2 foursomes, and it was a good game.
Probably have some decent money games there.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to a question from Sarah Hudson, who says, of all the Nationals who have passed through D.C., which one do you think would make a great big league manager, and why? Looking forward to hearing your answer. Loving the podcast. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, I think, we've had a lot. I think catchers sometimes, like Brian. I think of Brian Schneider as maybe being a manager. He actually he wasn't a bench coach, but he was on some coaching staffs, and I've talked to him a little bit about how when the bench coach would get thrown out, he would then kind of assume those duties. So he pops into my head just because I've had those conversations with him. But anyone that you kind of think of as calm and like doesn't get too bothered by anything, to me would make a good manager.
Who would that be?
Schneider comes to mind, and then I would think, Desi. I think Desi could be a good manager.
Interesting.
I think he does a good job of like speaking, motivating. He understands the game. Let's be honest. Like now, a manager's job is just to get the players basically to play for them and to understand personalities. You're doing decisions and baseball stuff as well, but with all the analytics in the game now, it's you're kind of told what the best lineup or what the best person to put into each situation is. So I don't want to say the gut call is out, but like a lot of that stuff's taken care of. So your job as a manager now is to basically manage personalities. So I think Desi would do good.
Okay, let's get to a question from Vic, who says, who is a teammate who had the best sense of humor, and give an example of their humor or antics?
Oh, man. One of my favorite teammates of all time from way back was Pete Orr.
Pete Orr? Wow.
Pete Orr. One of the funniest.
Sneaky pick.
One of the funniest guys. Always had good jokes, and always told great stories. Like he, one of his stories he told me, remember when Brett Boone was trying to make a comeback with us?
Yeah.
He was in spring training with us. Didn't make it out of camp, but went to AAA. Like, we said, we need you to play some. So Pete actually went to AAA. Pete was always up and down. Had some years, obviously, some good years with the Braves, and was here for a while. He was in AAA. This, I think, I forget if they were in Rochester or something. It was really cold. It was that first week or so of the season. And he's like, man, I hit a ball to center field. Like, I hit a ball to center field. And, like, center fielder's going back and, like, catches it, like, barely on the warning track. And he comes back and sits down on the bench, and he's like, God, man, I thought I got that one. And then Brett goes, well, Pete, that's why you're here, buddy.
Oh, no.
And Pete always had, like, obviously Pete was a great big league player, had a good career, but like he would tell stories like that. And there's another one when he was in with the Phillies, and their bench coach. When you're like a bench player, like around the 4th inning, everyone goes into the cage. You start to warm up because right around that 5th, 6th inning mark is when all the action happens for the bench players. So he was probably like 3rd or 4th option off the bench. So like he would let all the other first options get ready first, and there's usually only a couple cages. So he's like, they were getting ready, and then he was sitting there like throwing a ball up against the wall, and like the bench coach for the Phillies came in and was like, if he gets on here and they bring in the righty, you're hitting. If he gets on here and they bring in the lefty, you're hitting. Pete, you just keep throwing that ball up against the wall. And Pete's like, what? I don't have a chance. He's like, yeah, you have no chance to get in right now.
So it sounds like a lot of these stories are at Pete's expense and not as much
But
Pete.
then he always just had like good jokes, which were, I mean, some of them aren't suitable to tell. But he was just a guy that was always in a good mood, always made people laugh. Like, you need people like that on your team. And whenever anyone asks me about like best teammates of all time, and I say that, they say the exact same thing as you, like, oh wow, like going way back. But like, that's why this game is awesome, because like someone like him who nobody would ever even think of, like, he's literally one of the best people I've ever met playing the sport, and like so many fun times with him, and just a great person.
That's cool. All right, well, let's tell some more stories now. This one comes from Eric, who says, random question I've had for almost 20 years. Back in 2007, you, Robert Fick, and a couple other players went out to McFadden's during a homestand. Then he adds some other stuff, which we will not read here. He says, you can take this story one of two ways or both. One, give us your best Fick story. Two, are there different bar hopping, unwritten rules on the road versus at home? Excited to hear your answer, no matter which way you gravitate with Natitude. Eric.
Yeah, I mean, I might have gone to McFadden's once. Probably just that one time.
Just the once.
That used to be one of our spots. They had college night every Monday night. And it got to the point where like divisional teams would look. Like, I had a good buddy on the Braves that would come into town, and he's like, all right, 2 of the series this year, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday nights. I mean, this was back when you were allowed to do fun stuff before everyone took pictures and got everyone in trouble for doing nothing wrong. Like, we would bartend, we would, the good old days.
Yep.
But yeah, we used to frequent McFadden's to the point where when we would walk in, the DJ may or may not have played our walk-up songs when we came in the bar.
Love it.
Robert Fick's story, man. So Ficky came here, I mean, had a great career. He was an all-star in Detroit. And, one thing that he actually was doing before anyone else is he was sort of a bench player at the end of his career when he was here. And I would, see him on the plane. He was always watching something. This was before iPads and all that stuff, And he would watch the bullpen of the team we were flying to go play. And I was like, why you do it? He's like, well, when I get a chance, I got to know what everyone's going to throw.
Wow. So
he was kind of ahead of the game there. I mean, he was thought of as like a funny jokester guy that would party and hang out, which he did, but like he was prepared. And I think he taught me to be prepared. And I'll never forget sitting there on that plane with him for like an hour and going through the bullpen. And he's like, look, this guy does this to lefties. If I get a pitch hit opportunity, like, I'm going to sit slider against this guy. And like, it was just cool to talk to him about it. We did not talk about that at McFadden's that night, but shout out to good old McFadden days. And there's a bunch of people listening that probably met me there on Monday nights.
Good stuff. All right, our last question comes from Billy Jones, who happens to be a friend of mine, who says, I can't think of anything more perfect for this podcast than a video episode of Dan standing in the box for one of Mackenzie Gore's bullpen sessions in between starts. Zim, of course, would provide the commentary and roast Dan as this is happening. If he fails to make contact and put a ball in play, he must eat a fruit. If you know, you know. I'll hang up and listen.
Well, first of all, you would definitely not make contact.
100%.
And we can get to this after, but do you not eat fruit?
Yeah, let's get to that after. You've got a story, I think, when it comes to sneaky someone sliding into a bullpen section.
Yeah. A few years ago, Corbin was throwing a bullpen somewhere in an unnamed site, and my dad was in town. So he was like, can I tag along and come? And I'm like, sure, of course, man. Like, and then my dad played college baseball and was a good athlete growing up. Obviously, it's been a while since he was in the box, but Corbs was throwing. I was like, hey, you should go stand in. Nobody's standing in. He's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, Corbs, do you care if my dad? He's like, no, put him in there. And this is, don't get me wrong, Corbin's throwing this is just like a midweek bullpen.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's letting it eat.
He's getting his work in.
It's for feel.
Yeah.
Everyone does it. It's part of their 4 days in between starts. And so he's sitting there and like my dad's like, it's like the rookie of the year where the guy's in like the
Yes,
back corner
very
of the
back.
box.
Yes.
That's what my dad. I'm like, Dad, get in there.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my
Yeah,
god! Oh
I'm
my
like,
god!
he's not gonna hit you. So he's just pumping in, probably 85% fastballs, like so probably like 80, 85 miles per hour. And then he wasn't gonna throw any sliders, but I'm like, Corbs, just show him a couple of the sliders, and like so he throws a couple, and I'm like, now throw like an inside heater, and then throw the slider off of the inside here,
Like you would.
like you would in the game.
Yeah.
And I have video and pictures of it. Like I'm pretty sure I had one of them framed, like to put up for my dad, like scared to death in the back corner of the box. But
That's amazing.
my dad got out of the box and was like, I wish every fan that boos or yells at the TV could do what I just did. Because he's like, I played baseball and like I had no shot.
Yeah.
So fun little story that my dad got to do, and thanks to Patrick for letting him hop in there.
That's very cool.
Now to this, you don't eat fruit ever? Have you ever tried it?
Since I have been old enough, this for a long time, Brian, I did not tell a soul about this. I was mortified.
Yeah, rightfully so. It's weird.
Since I was able to make decisions on what I consumed, I have not eaten fruit.
Do you eat vegetables?
Yes, I eat lots of vegetables. I
Okay.
do not have scurvy. I am a fairly healthy 39-year-old man. But I have a mental block of some kind. I don't know where it came from. Now, let me I don't know. This is what always happens when people find out about this, is they play the what about game. What about apple? What about blueberries?
Yeah.
What did I say? I said I don't eat fruit. Now, I will add a little extra piece to this, which makes it even more bizarre, if that's possible. I like fruit-flavored candies. You give me Starburst, Skittles, fruit snacks even,
Yeah.
I'll crush them all day long. But the actual real fruit, can't do it, won't do it. A mimosa that's orange juice and vodka? No.
Not even orange juice.
No.
Well, it's weird because most people hate vegetables but love fruit.
I'm one of a kind, Ryan.
No, we're gonna have to get you to try some fruit before the end of the year.
We'll see about that. We'll see about that. I would like to change my ways. I would like to sample these things that everyone's raving about.
Well, I'm also sure your body would like you to change your ways as well, so you can get the essential nutrients
true.
and vitamins to grow up.
So, funny story, just to wrap this all up. We were in Philly a few years ago. After a game, I was out with a couple of our assistant GMs, members of our front office. I was out with a buddy of mine who works in the Phillies front office, and we're all at a table. We're having some drinks, and only one person at the table knew about this fruit phobia of mine. And so they outed me. And this, of course, became a whole thing. And my buddy who works for the Phillies said, how much money would have to be on the table right now for you to eat a fruit? And I blindly, in the moment, said $500. And before you could say, I don't want to do this,
Yeah.
there was $500 cash sitting on the table, and my buddy was running to the kitchen to go get a strawberry. And I was mortified. I thought I was going to vomit all over the table. This is so built up in my head.
Yeah.
I was terrified. I didn't want the $500. I wanted to walk the hell out of there.
We need to get you to face your fears. We're gonna have like a 11th inning. Was it Fear Factor? Was that the Joe Rogan show? We're gonna put you like
This is taking a turn.
you like won't eat a strawberry.
No.
To-
The kitchen was closed that night, thankfully.
What about
So
like
I
a
did not.
strawberry daiquiri? Like-
See, that's where we get when we get into that like alcoholic beverages that are
Well, you said
like
no mimosa.
right, but that's just
That's a lot of
orange
That's a
juice.
lot of orange.
I'll have like a pina colada, and I think there's maybe like
Yeah.
something when I'm in a
Coconut
tropical
and-
venue. Yeah.
Like a mango.
No.
Yeah, that's.
No. But I'll have high noons.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That's not real.
no, that's like
My
like the
brain
bubbly-
draws a distinction
That's like
between
the bubbly water thing. Like,
Yeah.
what do they say? Like the bubbly. It's like if someone burps and blows it in your face. That's how much it tastes like that flavor. Like Yeah, like, all right. Well,
We'll figure it out.
We'll
figure it
revisit
out.
this at the end of the
Thank
year.
you, Billy, for outing me here in this forum on this very public podcast.
Your only friend wrote an email in. That's nice.
Down to 0. Awesome, Ryan. Fun episode. Great having SVP on with us this week. As Ryan said, we're going to have Nicholas Backstrom and TJ Oshie on with us in 2 weeks. We are very excited about that. If you get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review, or on Spotify. I believe they do reviews there as well. Been a lot of fun. Ryan, thanks for another good one.
Yeah, look forward to next week and keep having some fun questions. We appreciate you guys writing in.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks on the 11th Inning Podcast with Kolko and Zim.